Kyan, how are you?
I am brilliant, Nate. A lovely, rainy day today. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. Good. I know it's a bit weird because we've actually been in the conversation 5 minutes before, but for the viewers, I wanted to ask how you were and pretend as if we haven't. um, but look, thanks for jumping on today, Kyan. As we've obviously put in the marketing that we sent out, today is all about talking about how to use and utilize AI to optimize workflows. I know this is something that you are really passionate about and something that you spent a lot of time looking into to help kind of make yourself a bit more of a lean, mean selling machine, let's say that. And we'll go into that in a bit because I know we've got some great topics to discuss. But first and foremost, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself to the people at home who don't know you, which I'm sure most of them do. But for those of them that don't know you, tell me a bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nath. Yeah, I'm
Pleasure.
Kyan. I'm an account executive and podcast host. I co-host the Because of BDR's podcast. There's a great episode where Nath is featured on there as well, so please go check that out. And I'm also a keynote speaker, so I love speaking on anything to do with SaaS, mental health, and sales.
There we go. I think you could have gone on for another 5 minutes there. There's so much more, but it's right. Yeah, your podcast is absolutely fantastic, and actually, we need to do that again at some point, kind because I think there's since we last jumped on that, there's so much more to talk about. And actually, I think the three of us on previously would now be good to kind of compare and contrast the differences that we've learned in that time frame. But today, let's talk about AI. Um, Now, I suppose where would you like to start with this? What I'd like to actually understand really is the sorts of ways that the AI that can help you in certain aspects. I know you mentioned kind of organization, prospecting, sales. Talk to me a bit about that. How do you implement that into your day to day to help you become a lean, mean selling machine?
Yeah, great question, Nath. I think to start off with, I just want to focus on the organization part because when SDRs or BDRs ask me, what are the most important things going into a new role, I always say it's the organization, way before any sales processes, way before any prospecting, and specifically, it's noting down everything that you do. And that may not be the most exciting answer, but if you have a tool like OneNote or Notion, which are basically virtual diaries, what I always advise people who ask me is to write down every win, screenshot every great comment from, someone senior, management, a customer. The reason for this is because you want to have a track of your progress from when you start the organization all the way throughout. And the reason for that is because that helps you with promotions, it helps you with negotiating salaries, and it helps you keep track of everything you do. There are a lot of people who do amazing, amazing work, and I would like to say that is enough. It is just enough, but if you don't have a record of it from the start, it it's almost not useless, but it becomes a challenge when you're looking to move on or advance.
That's a really good point. And actually, I am a notepad guy myself, but I do need to transition into something online, right? Because yes, it's great writing down, keeping the notes, but it's actually so much easier and so much quicker to go online, search for keywords, be able to go back to certain dates rather than kind of flicking through pages. Also, my writing looks like a doctor's writing sometimes. So yes, I've noted quite a lot down, but I can only read 75% of it sometimes. So it's a really, really good point. And like from your perspective, what are the differences between OneNote and Notion? Are they for people who don't know what they both are they both very similar? Are they alternatives, or is one much better than the other? Or, yeah.
They're quite similar, I'll be honest. OneNote's usually built in with your computer if you're using a Windows system, so it's very, quick and easy to organize. It almost works as simply a virtual folder. So how I've used it in the past is to create notes for projects that I'm working on. Obviously, I have my folder of all my achievements in the organization. And I'll be completely transparent. If it wasn't for creating, certain records of achievements that I've done, I wouldn't have been able to successfully negotiate certain salary negotiations. And if you look at templates for salary negotiations or promotion negotiations, you know, a lot of them, if not all of them, they would specify to state every single achievement, or if not the most important ones that you've achieved within the organization. And
Yeah.
if you don't have anything like that, you'll be unable to do that. So OneNote is usually built in if you have a Windows system, and then Notion, I do believe they have, you know, a free account where you could create these folders if you like.
Yeah. From what I've seen, at least, Notion seems to be a little bit more visually pleasing. I don't know if you agree or not, but like, I really like the way, because we use it for job specs sometimes, right? And creating job specs, you've probably seen it online as well. That's really good insight. One thing when it comes to organization, have you come across the likes of a Fireflies AI before when it comes to Zoom meetings and online meetings? Have you seen it?
Come across it. I've never used it. You know, I know from what I understand, Nath, I mean, you can tell the viewers from what I understand, these are tools that go into your meetings and they virtually take notes for you. Is that right?
It's exactly that, and it's something that I need to get better at using as well. We've actually only just really got onto it in the last kind of month or two, where we've just noticed more and more clients using it in client meetings. And it's essentially a virtual PA. So when you jump onto a video call, so we could have attached it today and it would have kind of transcribed everything we talked about. It would send you a follow up, but it actually use AI to make a really condensed and concise overview of what we talked about and take away all of its key points. So for discovery calls, for example, if it's over video or whatever it may be, if you're an AE or an SDR, jump on a video call with a prospect, you can get that to transcribe everything you talked about. So at the end of that call, where it be 15, 30 minutes, you've got everything there needed. You don't need to go through all your notes. You didn't miss anything because it's all there. So it's something that I would absolutely suggest people use. It will save a lot of time. Um, do you use any autofill AI tools at all? So for information essentially or not? I don't know if you'll need to use that in your day-to-day job, but for us, it's something that's quite helpful. Do you use that at all?
So what do you mean by autofill, Nathan?
Yeah, so for us, let's say for example, we speak to a candidate. Um, we spend half hour speaking, interviewing them. We'll get all the information, what's most important to them, salary on what they're looking for, targets, quotas, what they've done in each role. We then need to create a new candidate, right, in our CRM. So we then have to manually input all of that data and put the name, email address, X, Y, Z, how much you're looking for. Instead, what we can do is get Chrome plugins, for example, which will take all that information, a lot of it off their CV, which of course then kind of transfer it over, but also for the likes of a Fireflies AI, where it then automatically put it into the notes. Do you use any of that where it's like kind of data transfer, like auto data transfer at least?
That's
You
a
might
good
not need to,
question.
but
Yeah. Um, I don't think I have. I think reason being is because when I'm prospecting or selling, I know that the conversation can go in various different directions, and I want to keep it as open as possible. And I feel that, you know, if I do transfer data, I may possibly leave like a page unturned, so I don't. But it is a good idea for obviously certain roles.
it's a really good point. No, that's a really good point. And you mentioned there around prospecting, and I think that probably segues nicely into the next part, which I know again, prospecting is another section where you use AI, right? Some completely different tools. So yeah, talk to me about that. What tools do you use there?
Prospecting, I think, you know, data is the most important thing when it comes to prospecting. In from my experience, you know, others may disagree, but I feel that if you have the correct data, then it just makes things so much easier. So from a base point, obviously you've got things like LinkedIn Sales Nav that your organization may use and so forth. But if we're looking at specific data tools, um, my favorite is Cognism. I feel it has, you know, brilliant amount of data on there. You're able to get through to decision makers. It's not a plug or sponsored, by the way. But
Shout out
if
to Johnny Stavel.
yeah, shout out to Johnny. If you are able to get you know, a good data tool, I would say that is crucial if you're in a sales role like an AE or SDR role, because the problem is you can do a fantastic job at finding the correct people in terms of who they are and so forth, but to actually get through to them is another story. The only thing I would say, Nathan, is that different organizations do have different rules. So, for example, at previous companies, I had been given the freedom of using whichever tools I liked that we had, plus doing some free trials. But there are some companies when it comes to GDPR and so forth where you may not have, the access to use different tools. So although
Oh wow.
if you can, what I would do is check, with your management, whatever, see what the situation is, but use as many free trials as you can of these tools. And then what I did at a previous company is I bought a proof of concept to them. I said, look, I went out of my way. I used this tool. We managed to get 175% increase in opportunities for the team just because we had better data. And later down the line, they actually went out and bought it. So
Oh
check
wow.
if you can. Data's key.
No, that's data is king, as they say. I know you also use it for video prospecting, right? Or you have done in the past. So what sort of tools do you use there, and how does that work out of interest?
Yeah, so this was actually an interesting story. We had a problem, and I really can't remember what the problem was, but what we had to do is find out alternative ways to prospect. So my manager at the time, shout out Ryan, he decided that us and the team we should start, using videos a lot more, using video prospecting just to keep the numbers up while this problem went away. So we
Yeah,
use Vidyard, which is good, and that was the first tool I think I was introduced to when I got into SaaS anyway. And
yeah,
effectively, what that allows you to do is create personalized videos, short ones to your prospects, where they can be really catchy. You can put like a headline in there so they're clickable. Video prospecting is not something that I've used the most simply because I'm a bit more of a volume guy. I'm not saying it takes a lot of time, but I think picking up the phone is the speediest thing for me to do.
yeah.
However, when I have had even recruiters reach out to me, even if I haven't been interested in the role and I see it's a video, I've messaged some people but set back saying that, I know how long that takes. Really impressive, thank you, but no thank you for now. And I feel it's really important to use because you may not hit every time, just the same way every cold call may not go right or so forth. But there is something about effort that when you see it, and I'm sure you agree, Nathan, that you do appreciate it, especially when it comes
Do.
to outreach.
Yeah, you do. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And we last year used a lot of video outreach, and it does work, right? It works. I think it works nicely when you mix it in with other channels as well. Um, but I think for time and efficiency, it is very hard to do just video outreach. I think it works well as maybe part of the second stage or third stage of a cadence, for example. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I don't know if you've seen, but there's actually, I can't remember the name of the tools now, but there's a couple of AI tools where essentially like 3D scan your face. Um, and you basically get it to do the video outreaching for you. So it
Or-
looks like you, and it looks pucker, to be honest with you. It looks really, really smart. And you get it, you type out your script to each individual person, and it looks like that's you sitting in front of the camera, send out the video message. And I think at some point, as scary as it is, I think that's probably the way it's going to go with that sort of outreach, Yeah, it's crazy. I know another kind of, well, tool that you've actually used for quite a while now. I think you were kind of really hot on it to begin with, is ChatGPT. Now, that can be used for good, but also I think sometimes people use it the wrong way, right? So, yeah, talk to me. How do you think is the best way to use ChatGPT when prospecting?
Yeah, very, very good question. So ChatGPT is we're in an area at the moment where people can spot a message that's been crafted with ChatGPT, or most of
Yeah,
them, if you like, and by that I mean ones that haven't been filtered down with any other props, like putting in prior information or telling it to make the message shorter, which I'll get onto. So I think we are at a stage where people, SDRs or A's, they may risk their messages being ignored, similar to how people look at automated messages if there is an overuse on ChatGPT. What I suggest is to look at the best prompts, and that's what I do when I want to craft specific pieces of outreach. So you can get prompts on how to make this appeal to this persona. My favorite prompt, and it's not really a prompt that relates to any specific persona or position, is just telling ChatGPT to make it shorter.
yeah,
Uh, one of the best things that I learned from a previous manager is to think about how a message would look on your iPhone screen or your phone screen on your mail app. So think of what would need to fit in there. How can we make it as short as possible and concise as possible? So every piece of messaging that I try to send out now, whether I do get the help of ChatGPT or not, the first thing is how can we make it concise and small? I mean, we've all seen marketing emails where we may look and after a few lines we get disengaged. So
Yeah.
but more than ever now with people using ChatGPT, we need to make the messaging smaller. Also, I've received ChatGPT messages from prospects back, and it's just like I can tell this has been written by ChatGPT. So we're at a stage where people, they weren't too fond of getting, outreach 10 times a day. But now they're getting automated outreach. So you kind of have to maybe the prior outreach will stand out more. There's a fine balance. So I wanted to get your opinion on it.
It's a really tough one, isn't it? There's absolutely a balance. I think ChatGPT is actually it's really, really good if you use prompts like you mentioned there. So another point to add on to that, and I was speaking to Andy Laws. He done a post around did a post around taking out me, I, we out of the message, right? Because people don't want to hear about you; they want to hear about them at the end of the day. How are you going to help them? And I commented saying it's so much harder than it sounds because it is, right. Once you do it anyway, say, oh, this is who I am. I do this. We can do this. Me. Basically, they don't want to hear that. But using ChatGPT for something like that is where it's gold, right? Because you can say you can write the message, you can do a script, or make a script and say now remove I, me, we. So using it really smartly with stuff like that, and actually maybe doing research into what is the best way to write a cold email, and then taking that information and then using that as prompts with ChatGPT. That's how you get the most out of it, right? Rather than just get a big paragraph, copy paste into an email. It's everyone knows what that looks like now. So you need to be smart with it. You can use it to save time, but you can also use it to be different. So yeah, I think there's a fine line, but
Also,
definitely ways to use it.
I just wanted to add one of the best
Yeah,
ways still people can use ChatGPT is don't be afraid to feed ChatGPT information. Some of the best messages that I've crafted with the help of ChatGPT is because
yeah,
I fed it prior information. You
yeah,
can copy someone's whole LinkedIn profile, put it in there, and say using this, create this, and make it
yeah,
short, obviously. But a lot of people they just may write me an email for the first email in a sequence based on this. But if you feed it some context, is the correct word I should have used. This person has done this. Copy and paste some information about this person. That's where you can find the real value. And I feel that making it as short as possible, is sort of the icing on top.
do you know what, that is such a good point, because I think the way most people look at it is very black and white, right? So they look at it as a time saver. So they think, right, the whole point of ChatGPT is it's going to save me time, which means I'm going to put in one line of text, it's going to create me a whole email. But actually, the more time you put into, as you just mentioned there, giving ChatGPT context of that person, of that persona, of that business, the better your outreach is going to be, right? So that's such a good point. And around that as well, around the prompts that you mentioned. So you've obviously got your go-to prompts now, as kind of most people do, but how did you come across those prompts? Was that kind of research into what best practices to use when using ChatGPT, or is that just through A/B testing, kind of what worked, what has worked for you, what hasn't? How much time have you spent doing that research around the prompts that you use?
Yeah, good question. I'm a big believer of like don't invent the wheel. So if there's someone out there that has found a brilliant prompt, I'm definitely going to use it. So I think initially there was like a TikTok page and I started following that. And then there are a few like specific pages that I go to on Google where they've got certain prompts for things that I use a lot. My best advice to anyone, particularly in sales, is just type on Google best prompts for X, whatever you're trying to achieve, because again, Nath, as you said, a lot of people go into Chat GPT and they try to produce me this. But if someone has done something better before you, there's no point in going out and trying to start from scratch. You can use it and optimize it. And what you'll find is when you do use these prompts, coupled with, you know, contextual information, and maybe a sprinkle of your own sort of style. You could say write it in this tone as well. That's when you get the best results.
Yes, it's such a good point. It's such a good point. In terms of that kind of outreach using ChatGPT, do you use anything to automate your cadences at all?
Um, yeah, so with the I have in the past we've used tools like Outreach, which is brilliant.
Yeah,
Um, I don't have Outreach at the moment, but one, not regret, but if I could, or if anyone's, you know, listening to this, I would say try to become a master at Outreach if that's something that your company uses. It's such a brilliant tool to be able to craft certain cadences, and edit them. So yeah, at the moment, I just use automated cadences and I just focus on phone calls. But
yeah,
yeah, if you do have the opportunity to use something like Outreach, then definitely learn how to use it to its best ability. So Outreach, it sends out automated cadences. You can create so many of them with different times and different action steps in there. And one of the best things about Outreach for me anyway is you can have great data points into open rates and when they were opened and the success rates and reply rates. So it's really,
yeah.
really comprehensive.
That's good. That's good. In terms of ChatGPT again, and it's something we've used for lead gen previously, right? How do you use that when well, do you use it for lead gen? And if so, again, how do you go about that?
Um, so for lead gen in what particular sense? Like asking it.
More kind of generating prospects that you think are a relevant fit for you, right? Have you used ChatGPT for that before, or do you have other means of going about that?
Yeah, no, so I haven't used ChatGPT for lead gen. My main go-to is LinkedIn Sales Nav. I think they've got
Yeah.
brilliant filters on there, but I would love to know, you know, how that's been done, you know, by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's we use it for lead gen, but also for headhunting, right? So especially when you're recruiting for a really niche company and they are might be a startup and the space is fairly small. Sometimes those small spaces, it can either be one of two ways, right? It can be it's really easy to find out or their competition, or it's such a new space that it's not quite out there yet. It's really hard to come across these companies. They've not invested loads into their marketing and branding. So ChatGPT is really good for doing that because you put into ChatGPT, tell me every competitor within this niche sector, or tell me every competitor of this company. And then for us, it's like, right, we know that the people in those companies are going to be relevant. Or obviously, again, kind of using it for um, keywords, right? So let's just say somebody or one of our clients is after a machine learning salesperson. So like, tell us the top 10 fastest growing machine learning startups in the UK, and it will populate that. So it's really useful for that sort of stuff for recruiters as well. So I'd yeah, definitely look into that. Amazing. I mean, look, you kind of touched on it before, but I suppose what tangible results have you seen from using AI and implementing that into your day-to-day process?
Yeah, brilliant question. I'll just start from like the first topic that we mentioned, which is organization, and
Yeah,
just literally having those achievements has been able to, you know, I've been able to negotiate higher salaries. I've been able to go to new opportunities and negotiate higher salaries. I'd be able to negotiate promotions more successfully. So I feel that, you know, just from the organizational point of view, and I'm sure a lot of people do this, but if you don't, I couldn't recommend to start on one thing more importantly than this is just having your achievements locked in. It doesn't even matter if you're having a bad day or a bad week. Any good thing that you can do, put that in there for the duration of the time that you're at the company. You will need that. You may forget a lot of
yeah,
the great things that you do. And even if you are working slightly less hard or not getting the results as someone who's doing a bit better than you having that information on what you've done, and if they don't, you will have, you know, an advantage, you know, going into different positions or moving up in the ladder. So the tangible results from that point of view, I've had them. Were my most notable tangible results, I would definitely say have come from having great data, as I've touched on. With Cognism, we managed to get 175% increase in opportunity. So
really good.
and that was from a free trial at the time, even though I think they went
Mhm.
on to buy it. So if you can use the free versions of all these tools, again, those are two great examples of tangible metrics that can help your team and yourself in your career. So I wouldn't shy away from it. And I think that again, Nathan, you mentioned a brilliant point about people perhaps maybe looking at AI as a way to maybe think things are to use it as a way to make things easier. But again, these things take time. To use ChatGPT takes time to learn all these new tools and to use them. It does take time. It's not a shortcut, but the point is they can, as the title says, optimize workflows and drive these results.
100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And is there any AI tools that you actually use outside of work, just out of interest? None personally, by the way. But yeah, what about yourself?
That's a good question. I may use ChatGPT to respond to an email here and there. I may, I
Yeah.
may, I may actually do that. So, I reckon ChatGPT. What else do I use outside of work? Um, Again, a lot of these tools, a lot of them I may use outside of work as well, but I didn't before. They sort of transferred over. So
Mm.
again, OneNote for taking notes, keeping track of my personal goals, which is very important to me as well. Although I am similar to you, Nathan, when it comes to sort of my personal goals and even some work goals. And again, this is a good point. Don't be afraid to sort of pick one, or you don't have to pick one or the other. I like writing things down first and then
Yeah.
transferring them, onto the virtual system. So yeah, I use ChatGPT outside of work and OneNote, a bit of Notion as well. And also, yeah, those are the two.
That's cool. On that as well, as we're talking about optimizing workflows for transferring from your book or your notepads to the computer. Can't remember the name of the app, but I've got it. You take a picture of it, transcribes it into text, copy and paste over. So there we go. There's
You've got
another
everything.
tip. There's another tip.
So that's
um,
really cool.
it's helpful if you've got neater writing than myself. Like I said, I think sometimes it struggles to identify every word that I've written down, but it definitely does save time again when you've written a load down. One other tool that I wanted to cover actually, and it's something we came across the other day, and one of our clients use it, and it's actually for Outlook, and it plugs in, and because he's a founder of a business, he gets so many emails every day. He's got this AI tool which filters through all of his inbox. What it do? It'll identify junk, ones that don't need replying to, like whatever it may be. But it also, for the ones that are interesting, it will draft a reply email for him. And then every morning he'll go through and he'll obviously tweak some because it'll be like, well, that's not correct, or I'd like to add that. But it essentially write out the bulk of each of his responses to those emails. Every morning goes through his draft, tweaks it, sends, tweaks it, send. So again, that massive time saver. But yeah, I'll find out the name for you and get back to you on that one because it was mind blowing. Yeah.
That sounds really good. As you said, it's about some things are about making the task quicker, some things are about optimizing. If you have the mindset that you're just using these tools to make everything quicker, that is in my opinion, the wrong approach. But for this particular tool, it is going to make things quicker. That's brilliant. But not for every tool is not just to make things speedier. Some are just to meant a bit of there to make your job easier, make your life easier. So it's just about finding these tools and figure out what you're using them for and using them in the best way possible.
Agreed. Agreed. Last question for me, Khan. Thank you so much, by the way. And it's not AI related, it's more AR related, augmented reality. Apple Vision, it's all over the news at the moment. There's videos over LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, you name it. Can you see yourself at some point in the next 5 years working with a headset on, working away?
I mean, it's looking that way, Nathan. I can't see why not. I can see these things becoming more affordable as time goes on. There's been a lot of things that we felt were out of this realm, and they became, normalized when it comes to
Yeah,
technology. So yeah, I mean, I think people will be, filming things on there and then doing their work from there, and yeah, we'll probably be using that a lot in the future.
crazy. Absolutely crazy. I think it also kind of enable people to work remote even more now, right? People will be able to do it in transit and traveling. So, yeah, it's crazy times, crazy times. Mikhail, thank you so much. That was fantastic. I can't believe it's been a half hour, actually. It's absolutely flown by. Do you have any lasting questions, any points you'd like to get out at all?
No, I'd just like to say to everyone, if you can, yeah, just tune into the episode that I've done with Nathan and Sourced as well on the Because of BDRs podcast. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this coming out and to any questions as well.
Kyan, you've been an absolute star. Thank you so much for jumping on today. We will speak soon. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. That's the end of Source Presents. Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Cheers out. Bye.